Orkney hosted an international expo which included delegates from a number of companies from around the world. This gave us an opportunity to discuss the environmental and social issues of wave technologies with some of the leading companies.
Scotland's in a very strong position in the marine sector at the moment. We've got obviously this round here where there's 1.6 gigawatts of projects under development. We have a strong indigenous industry with a lot of the technology developers based here in Scotland. We've got the oil and gas expertise, we've got EMEC. So actually Scotland is in a very, very strong position to lead the world in this sector.
What are the main challenges now with wave and tidal technology?
For us, I guess we look at three broad areas. First, the technologies. We need to see technologies tested and improving themselves in the marine environment. The EMEC facility here in Orkney is a key part of that. And then building out from that, the first arrays of maybe 10, 20 devices, seeing those tested. So technology is very important, and that's one of the key challenges. The next is obviously getting the grid here. We need to bring transmission capacity to Orkney to allow these projects to export their power into the main energy markets. And the final area is really the whole sort of consenting and environmental process. It's still relatively early days, as we learn more about the marine environment and how these devices are going to interact in that environment. But I think we're very well set up here again, particularly in the north of Scotland.
What do you need to do to prove that the technologies will not be detrimental to the local area and population?
I think we need to work together with not only the developers but the local agencies in Scotland, so that any data that is collected, be that data related to how the device interacts with the environment, how it interacts with its local area, what the device is like, what is the device being made of, and how is it being made. So we collect all of that data, we collect the interaction side, and we publicise it, and we make sure that the relevant people know, is it affecting fish? Is there any biofouling accidents? What's going to happen if? And if you know what's going to happen if, then you can make sure that you test for that, and that then the device is going to pass those tests and be available to go and then into the ocean.
Critically, when you talk about environmental impacts, it's about understanding what the interactions are between machines and the environment that they're put in, and we have actually quite limited operational data on that. However, if you take an educated look and assessment of the technology from an ecological point of view, there is very little areas of high risk concern. So I firmly believe that from an ecological point of view, Polaris is actually a very benign generating technology. I think where the areas of higher conflict or areas that will need to be more closely managed will actually be sea users. So it will be fishing communities and shipping. And that will be one of the key constraints when we talk about like the wholesale size of the market as to how big it gets. You couldn't completely cover the sea in Polaris machines because ships wouldn't be able to sail. So these will be constraints that we'll need to manage. In my mind, they're probably the most significant ones. From an ecological perspective of interactions with cetaceans, seabirds, benthic ecologies, I think it's very minimalised actually with Polaris. And in fact, there's every reason to think that Polaris farms could be ecologically positive in the fact that they will act as no-take zones, shelter areas, fish aggregation devices, and we could see that actually assist with supporting local populations, if not actually assisting with what we're all generally aware of and have seen declines in a lot of these areas, both fish stocks, bird populations and cetaceans, is that potentially wave farms could actually help.
And what do you feel the global potential of wave technology is?
I think it's quite an open question. I mean, I think it's possibly best to start in looking at it at a national level. So if you look at the resource that's available in Scotland, for instance, and then you apply some simple constraints in terms of grid and environmental issues and economic issues, you generate a figure of what potentially you could connect. And I think studies that have looked at Scotland would say somewhere in the region of 14 gigawatts of installed capacity could be for offshore wind around Scottish waters. And to put that into context, that's about half of what round 3 is for offshore wind in the UK at the moment. And that's projected to cost somewhere in the region of 100 to 120 billion pounds. So we're talking about maybe circa 50 billion, 60 billion pounds industry just in Scotland. And then you can multiply that as in terms of the number of coastlines that we see wave energy. It is obviously a global resource. So it's certainly, a multiples of tens, if not hundreds of billions of pounds industry ultimately.
These new wave technologies will bring benefits as well as impacts to some areas of the environment.
Well, Orkney is a very special place, and environmentally and socially and in terms of the economy, there are a number of challenges that will have to be addressed to deliver any sizable new industry in Orkney. In terms of the environment, Orkney is speckled with designations, international, national and local designations for its natural heritage, its built heritage, and whilst we're very keen to embrace the potential that the renewables industry can provide for Orkney, we have to make sure we balance that potential against the need to carefully address the various constraints that there might be in certain locations and find the best locations, not just for the industry but also for the long-term sustainability of Orkney as a place to live and to work.
Wave power has the potential to play an important part in the long-term goal in utilising renewable energy both in Scotland and globally. The deployment of the Polaris in aquamarine power has brought recognition to the technology available in Scotland. This interest will stimulate growth of the industry, allowing other technologies to advance and realise their potential. Until they become more economically viable and more competitive with other renewables such as wind, wave power generation will supply small islands or small communities within Scotland. This video has highlighted the global potential for wave energy and embraced the environmental impacts. It has identified some of the leading technologies and industry professionals who are driving the power forward. These technologies are available and funding is coming. The government are behind it, and we have a solution to join the renewable energy mix that, coupled with other technologies, will achieve our 2020 targets, improve our energy security and be part of being a better world.